Hey, what is up, mortals? Welcome to Season 1 Part 2 of What If Villains Had an Academia. Just wanted to greet you guys by just saying sit back and relax, you're in for a treat, and so we begin. Midoriya took a shaky breath as he sat up tentatively in his bed, shaking his head to clear the fog encapsulating it. Izuku turned to look at the person standing in the room with him. The figure was tall and muscular, initially driving the green-haired teen to believe it was All Might, but soon realized that the figure was in a suit. He felt his whole body tense up, his breath caught in his throat. He felt tears bubble up in his eyes, and his stomach contorted itself in ways he couldn't put into words. Before the quirkless boy stood perhaps the most intimidating figure imaginable. Beyond the suit, the individual wore a massive mask with breathing tubes sprouting from it in several locations, with no visible visor or eye slots. The horrific man's hands were relatively pale but strong, and he stood with them palms side up before the nervous boy. Perhaps more chilling than his appearance was his voice. "I am afraid this will be excruciatingly painful for you, young Midoriya." Before the green-haired youth could make a move or sound, All for One was upon him, hand clasped tightly around his throat, lifted off his bed. Midoriya coughed and hacked as he writhed within the conglomeration's grip. Suddenly, he felt a sharp pain in his body, in what he felt could be his very soul. Izuku's screams were cut short by his crushed windpipe, and the pain of having something forced into his very being was felt yet again. His eyes flashed with light, and as quickly as the pain began, the high schooler's mind told him the infusions were being torn away at a rapid pace, screams turning primal and body spasming. All that the boy could do was think about what was happening. He felt various transformations take place, countless strengths and weaknesses enveloping his very being every second. The sheer pain and volume of changes was constantly overloading Izuku's brain. His body lost control of its functionality, and he felt himself begin to slip into unconsciousness again. Before he could, though, his body managed to spasm his back enough to let him get one scream out. At this, the nightmarish individual dropped the boy on his bed, before warping away in a vertical pool of gray sludge. Relieved that the torture was over, the schoolboy's mind allowed him to slip into unconsciousness, his essence holding tight onto the two new parts of himself as though his life depended on it. Seconds after losing consciousness, the number one hero bolted back into the room to see the boy he saved passed out in an awkward position, sheets ruffled and hands glowing. He knew exactly what had happened once the nurses confirmed that the boy had no quirks before, and the rage he felt next could be considered by all present to be far more terrifying than the presence of All for One. Mere hours later, the once quirkless teen bolted up into a sitting position, coughing and spitting. His mother came scrambling into the room, fawning over the young victim. "Oh, Izuku, you're awake. You're finally awake. Oh dear, are you okay? Do you need tissues, cough drops, food? I've got it all right." Her son held up a hand, finishing his coughing fit and taking a few deep breaths to steady himself. When the youth turned to face his mother, they both looked at his hand, which was now glowing with a malachite green tint. The light sporadically darkened and brightened itself, and both individuals screamed. This attracted the attention of some nurses, but they were stopped by someone Midoriya did not expect to see. The stars on his costume almost seemed to cast a dim light themselves, and his bangs stuck straight up like a second pair of ears. With one arm at the hero's side and the other holding back the nurses, All Might walked into the room and eventually silenced the family within. His smile, much to Izuku's horror, was replaced with an angry frown. "Please forgive me. I wasn't here to help you with the villain who tortured you." The worldwide idol took a knee to the anxious teen, who was even more panicked than before. "Who was in my room when you were gone? Why are you still here? Why is my hand glowing? I'm afraid we must discuss this in private. This has gotten quite serious, and we must be certain that you get the help that you need." All Might made direct eye contact with Mama Midoriya, who looked away, ready to cry again. "Is it true that your son was born quirkless?" All Might inquired. He didn't break eye contact. The teary-eyed mother took a shaky breath before replying tentatively. "Why, yes. He was devastated when we took him to the doctor's office and they said he'd never have a quirk." She blew her nose and tossed the tissue into a nearby trash can, which was practically overflowing with used Kleenex. At this, All Might's already agitated demeanor became darker still, gesturing for the nurses to let them be. He waited until the doors were locked before continuing. "Ma'am, I'm afraid your son has been targeted by a villain I have a long history with. It seems this villain used his quirk to transfer stolen quirks into your son." The number one hero paused to let his words sink in, and waited until they asked the question they knew he would. The first to speak, however, was the bedridden boy. "How is that possible? I thought quirks were a genetic trait. Are you saying that I have a quirk now?" he squeaked, scratching his head as he began mumbling to himself about the plausibility of it all. All Might cleared his throat to stop him. "I'm afraid I truly cannot share any more information at the moment, and you must not tell a soul about this. The nurses will explain your quirks to you, so that you may understand them better." If you could just rest here a little bit. He suddenly stopped himself as the young boy shakily got out of bed. Walking towards the door, his face uncharacteristically fierce. All Might tried to stop him, but Midoriya looked him in his eyes with a sort of determination that made All Might take a step back. The boy took a shaky breath before mustering the best smile he could. I remember the pain of what happened, but I won't tell anyone about it. I have a quirk now, All Might, and I want to use it the best I can. I'll be able to use it to get into UA. But I need time to study it, to practice with it. The young victim briefly looked back to his mom, smile widening and both tearing up before continuing. Even without this new power, I'm determined to be a hero. This may be hard to believe, but for me, this is a miracle. Then, the green-haired teen made eye contact with the symbol of peace, who was truly impressed. Thank you for saving me, All Might. And I'll be a hero who saves people with a smile on his face, just like you. At this, well and honestly taken aback, All Might grinned broadly and proudly back. Just like that, Midoriya walked out of the room and began talking to the nearest nurse he saw in his room, leaning against the wall for support. Just before he could leave, the number one hero was stopped by a hand grabbing onto his pant leg. It was the mother of the young man. Please don't let him. He's just a boy. And he's already been in so much pain. I don't have the heart to tell him no. Sobbing between words, Mama Midoriya pleaded further with All Might, before he held up a hand with a warm and caring look. Do not worry. One of the main reasons I'm in this city right now is because I've been called in to work at UA myself. I will make sure your son is safe. The symbol of peace sighed, signs of guilt tainting his brave demeanor. After all, this is perhaps my fault. This villain that attacked him. As I stated, that individual and I have a long-standing dispute. It's only right that I protect this boy at all costs. Sniffling, the heartbroken mother nodded, sobbing uncontrollably. All Might gently pat her back to calm her, looking out at the young boy. He was still chatting with the nurses, writing out information on his arm with a pen. All Might sighed nervously. He really does seem happy, Mrs. Midoriya. I wouldn't worry about him too much. I think he's better off now than you think. As the months passed, Izuku Midoriya researched his quirks tirelessly. It turned out that this stranger had given him not one, but two quirks, and they seemed to counter one another. The first gave him the ability to launch pulses of energy from his hands, feet, and chest. However, to make the pulses denser, larger, or simply go further, he had to use more stamina. In addition, he could only launch the pulses in tandem with his heartbeat. This was what caused his hands to glow. At the apex of his heartbeat, he could launch the pulses. However, his other quirk made his heartbeat sporadic and uncontrolled without affecting his other bodily functions. The stranger truly did seem to give him an impractical pairing of abilities. Even still, the determined youth continued to research his quirks and practice. The targeted teenager researched training regimens, getting himself into proper shape for the exams. He studied what he needed to exercise more to account for his quirk's usage, and discovered that his once annoying secondary quirk kept his blood flow at a steady and constant state, giving him more endurance than normal. One day, while testing for and thinking about the hero exams, his pulse seemed to quicken. Izuku blinked in surprise. He took a breath, trying to clear his mind thanks to a hypothesis hastily formed, and felt his heart rate drop to a far steadier level. This was perhaps the biggest breakthrough for him, studying how to control his own thoughts via meditation and the like. The studious youth gained greater control of his heartbeat, which gave him even further control over his blast. Throughout all of this, he was given the gift of constant visits from All Might, who helped him to get into proper shape. The workouts were fresh hell, but they got serious results. By the time the entrance exams had rolled around, the once scrawny fanboy had become a well-toned quirk user. The abilities bestowed upon All for One's victim had bloomed into a splendid gift to the schoolboy, and he was eternally grateful for the circumstances he was put through. As he gained further control over his own mind and body, All Might grew increasingly impressed. The number one hero's own time was coming to a close, and he had to make a decision soon. The candidates found by his allies left much to be desired by All Might. Nobody that the man had met had been quite up to snuff. The entrance exams, however, would tell the hero all he'd need to know. Why leave him with those quirks, master? You could always go back and steal them again. He doesn't deserve your gifts. Shigaraki scratched at his face as he spoke, clearly worried about All for One's actions. However, his mentor gently reassured him. There's no need to worry. I shall take those quirks of mine back when I need to. For now, let him think he has a chance. Let the world show him how cruel it can be, and perhaps he'll come to his senses. As if on cue, a small patrol burst into the bar, panting. The lead villain spoke. Sir, we have the intel on all the applicants for the exams this year, and we also have confirmation that UA will indeed be hiring All Might as a teacher. The amalgamation of abilities grinned beneath his helmet, chuckling. He accepted the manila envelope from his small crew before opening another sludge portal and taking a step towards it, but paused. Shigaraki kindly thanked these double agents for their work. Laughing maniacally, the criminal overlord passed into the portal and his protege grinned broadly. The individuals who delivered the information looked quite panicked, and as a couple turned to run, the door locked behind them. The blue-haired antagonist removed his hand mask, revealing his horrific grin. Before anyone could make a move, the floor erupted with a dozen sludge portals, Nomus grabbing tight onto the heroes in disguise. The head hero's illusions faded, showing several lesser-known rescuers grouped together. They all began to struggle within the grip of the man-made monstrosities, but they couldn't budge. Tamura simply grinned wider and, one by one, fully wrapped his hand around the captured do-gooders' faces. Neither the heroes nor their screams left the bar. Thank you all for indulging yourselves in the story thus far. Hope you enjoyed it. Now there are a few more things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, we've got a second channel called Anime Deep Dive. Anime Deep Dive goes deep into the facts and lore of a wide variety of anime. It's sure to expand your weeb knowledge for all kinds of series guaranteed. On top of that, we have a third channel called We The Celestials Naruto What Ifs. It's what we do on this channel already but in the vast world and lore of Naruto. Go check it out if you're in the mood for some jutsu action. I'd like to let you all know on behalf of We The Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description below. If you're perhaps interested in what we do here at WTC, then I would like to extend out an invitation to join the team. The only caveat being we only accept members 16 and older to join our crew. You can find us on our Discord, which you can locate in the description below. Our Discord is an all-around fantastic place to be, whether you're a fan or looking to join our band of misfits. All you gotta do is hit up the recruitment server and sign up for whichever category of work that fulfills your interest. We're always looking for members to join us. Well, that's it from us for today's video. So thank you all for watching and have a great day.